First thing we want to go over today is safety. Definitely want to use eye protection, hand protection, and just pay attention to what you're doing. There's also tools that we'll be using today. Power tools like this, cutters as well. Definitely want to be careful with your fingers. All different types of screwdrivers, pliers, and occasionally the hammer. So some of the different tools that you'll be using are a file, a flathead, Phillips head. Now there's various sizes of the flathead and the Phillips head screwdriver. Make sure to find the right size for the screw that you are using it on. Also cutters, side cutters, straight cutters, the hammer, a utility knife, and a power tool. This is a nice thing to have. You'll also have various size bits. Also, one of the things that you should do is match the right bit to the right screw to avoid stripping any screws that you're disassembling. We want to go over the different types of wire and how to process items that are attached to the wire and what these items are. This is known as an AC adapter. When you are cutting it, try and cut it as close as you can, and that gets separated in its own category. Speakers, same thing. Unplug anything that you can, otherwise cut it. Now, we have different types of wire here. This is called a ribbon wire. And on these ribbons, we use a side cutter tool. Cut the plastic piece. Sometimes you cut it twice. And then this connector can just be peeled right off. And this goes in its own category as well. So the ribbon wire, there'll be a designated box for that. And you have other types of wire that's insulated. They'll have connectors like this. Cut those as well. And those will go in a separate pile of connectors. Again, you have your ribbon wire. Same detail. These connectors you don't necessarily have to worry about. There's no extra work needed on that. There is also a ribbon wire. Do we have a ribbon wire? That is silver ribbon wire. So this is copper base, this is silver and Teflon base. So these will go in a separate category as well. So two different types of ribbon wire. And along with the silver ribbon wire, you can also put silver ribbon that's from keyboards and other electronic devices. This is probably out of a laptop. So now what you'll end up with here is #2 insulated copper wire that'll go in its own box. Okay, one last category of wire, two different categories of wire actually. You have telephone wire and you have category 5 communication wire. This is a high grade communication wire, this is a low grade communication wire. These should have two separate categories as well. Learning to identify your metals. Aluminum is one of the most common things, as well as steel, that you'll find in electronics. You use a magnet. If it sticks to it, the odds are it's steel. There's also a metal called stainless steel. There's magnetic stainless steel and non-magnetic stainless steel. This actually is dirty. There's a piece of steel in there. Right here the magnet does not stick. So this is non-magnetic stainless steel, but it's classified as dirty because there is steel in that. You have aluminum that's clean. There's no screws, no foreign objects attached. That would be one category. Same as that. This one here is dirty aluminum. Nope, it is clean aluminum. Nothing attached to it. This would be dirty aluminum. You have a screw here, a little metal bracket, all these foreign objects as well. That'd be another category. This is classified as copper aluminum heat sinks. That'll be a totally separate category. Now, identifying brass, this is where the file comes in. So basically, you will file it. If it's not a brass color when you file, the odds are it's a different type of metal. This one is actually cast aluminum. This one here, when you file it, you can see that it is a brass color. So that is brass. Totally different category. Then you have copper. Now this would be classified as a dirty copper heat sink unless you remove the objects attached to it. Plastic. And always be aware that there's processors under the heat sinks. So when you do disassemble these, you want to make sure to remove your processor and put those in their own category as well. So once all the plastic is removed, there's no other material attached to it. That's clean copper. Okay, a few different things to identify. You have DVD drives. These are typically found in laptops. They're thinner and lighter. This would be out of your desktop unit, DVD drive, and a floppy drive. These could all be put in one category together. Now they're commonly misplaced with hard drives. Notice the hard drive looks pretty similar to these items here. There you go. The hard drive will not have an area for a disk to go inside it. It's a sealed unit. So now, learning how to dismantle these items. Sometimes it's a matter of preference. Typically what I'll do on this DVD drive, there's 4 screws usually on the PC unit. That comes off. That's steel. You can usually just rip that right off. You'll also have your silver base ribbon wire that you can rip off as well. Or you can cut it off too. So this is your end product. There's also another board in here. It's a brown board that you can take off. Notice there's a motor attached to that board. That could go with your motors. That could go in steel. You have a floppy disk drive. Same concept on these. There's a few screws. This is aluminum. I believe it's aluminum. Magnet does not stick, so that is clean aluminum. Now this can be a little bit more intense, taking the board out of it. Try not to resort to the hammer, because when you do that, bad things can happen. Usually you can use a screwdriver to pry things. In this case, there's a lot of little screws that could come apart. Try to identify the screws, what holds everything together, and then use your tools. Oh, that'll happen. Sometimes you'll strip a screw. Okay, so different types of batteries. You have your lithium-ion cell phone batteries, lithium-ion laptop batteries, your lead-acid batteries that will come out of your backup power UPS devices. And then you also will have your common household alkaline batteries. Now sometimes you'll also have NIMH and lithium batteries that are your household style that you'll want to separate as well. The NIMH is its own category, and then there's also a NiCad, NICD, that's another category we don't have an example of right now. Those are your different types of batteries. Okay, a few different categories. You have your electric motors. Electric motors will come in all different shapes and sizes. These are clean electric motors. There's no foreign attachments like you would have on a fan. This would be a dirty electric motor, but it would go in a different category of PC fans. Transformers. These are bare transformers. Notice your AC adapter. When you open it up, there's also a transformer inside of there, just like these ones. Same exact thing, except it has foreign attachments, plastic and brass. That covers a few different additional categories. Dismantling a PC. This is a desktop unit. There's going to be several components inside of it. So you have memory, which is also known as RAM. You have add-on cards, which are also known as fingerboards, daughter cards, video cards, things like that. So that's a separate category as well. And those generally just pull out of there. Sometimes there'll be screws holding them in place. You'll have to unscrew those. And sometimes there's a safety catch. I don't know if you can see that safety catch right there. So that will hold the add-on card in place. So sometimes you have to reach in and pull that, get it out. Okay. This particular unit, you can see these disk drives will pull right out if you just squeeze these things together. Pull them right on out of there. You also have a floppy disk drive. Goes in the same category as the DVD drives. Now, your power supply supplies power to all the different components as well as the motherboard. You'll have a fan that'll come out of there. And it'll have a shroud attached to it you can take off and put that in plastic. The fan will need to have the cord cut. And that goes in your fan pile. Power supply. Generally there's 4 screws that hold it in place. You can get your power tool. This one has 2 screws attached. And then there's also a quick disconnect lever right there that I push down on to pull this out. On your power supplies, there's zip ties. A lot of times that'll hold the wires to the power supply. Go ahead and clip those so you can get the tail ready to be cut. With your nice straight cutters, you can generally cut right through all of that, nice and close. So now your wire is ready to go in the number 2 insulated copper wire bin. A few more items here. There's a heat sink that has a few different brackets. Sometimes they're plastic brackets like this. I'll show you another example in a little while that hold this heat sink in place. Now the heat sink is usually on top of your processor. So the processor has a lever that holds it in place. Pull your lever up and you pull the processor right out. This goes in a separate category as well. Now a lot of times the motherboard has different ways that it'll come out. This particular one takes a 1/4 inch drive nut driver, which notice also there's this quick release, and then there's these plastic pins that hold the rest of the board to the metal bracket. So a lot of times when you run across something like that, you'll get a flathead and you'll just pry up on these plastic pins, or you'll get a flathead and you'll pry it all off. Okay. Now the motherboard comes off the metal bracket. Then there's one last thing. This battery needs to be pulled out of there. Now you have a Pentium 4 motherboard that's ready to go in its own category. And a few more components. You can pull this off as well, this heat sink. Usually comes right off. Just gotta pry the springs. And there you go. Now in here there's still one more item that needs to come out. This could go into your mid-grade circuit board box. We'll go over that later as well. A little piece of ribbon wire still attached. Goes to the front of the computer. You can cut that out. Using some cutters like this usually works well. There you go. Okay, so monitors. These are LCD monitors, and what you want to do with them is be careful with the screens when you're handling them. The bases can come off if they're not being resold. You can take the base off after testing. Well, a lot of times, as long as the screen is not cracked, there will be a recycling value to it. As long as it's not cracked or scratched. So no matter what, if it's resale, you leave the base on, it goes to resale. If not, if the screen is not cracked, you go ahead and take the base off. The base can go in steel. Check it, usually to see if it's cracked or not. or scratched, any deep scratches, at that point then it becomes a very invaluable item or unvaluable item. So now what you'll do when you're prepping these, as long as they're not scratched or broken, you'll take the base off and you'll put them face to face. And when you stack them in a box, you'll have a big Gaylord box that you'll stack them in. You'll stack them like this, back to back, face to face. And they'll sit in the box like that. Okay, so right here we have a laptop motherboard. On the laptop motherboards, there's memory that can come right out of there. Put that with your gold finger memory. There's just little prongs that you pull back on and they spring out. There's also a battery that needs to come out of there. You could use something to pry it out with. And then there's also a processor there that needs to come out. And again, you can pry that out with something as well. That processor goes in the processor file. There's also one more little board here that can come out. And it's similar to memory that could go in with your fingerboards, which we'll go over that now. So now that this motherboard from a laptop has been cleared, you can put that in the laptop motherboard pile. Here's another one. This one is green. Doesn't matter the color, you can mix those together. Same thing. You want to make sure that the memory has been pulled, battery is pulled, and that the processor comes out as well. Laptop motherboards, there's a flathead that you can turn that will release this processor. There we go. So, should be unlocked. And there it goes. There goes with your processors, and now this goes with your motherboards. There's also the one little board there that could come out as well. That goes in with your finger cards. These are called finger boards, add-on cards, daughter cards, video cards, etc. These can all go in one pile. Whenever you see a board with visible gold, these are out of Cisco telephones. You have visible gold, you have IC chips. This is a higher grade circuit board. You can see visible gold on the back side as well. Got some fingers there. This would go in a separate category, a high grade category. When you see boards like this, you don't see a lot of gold, but you do see some IC chips. Same with this. This could be a mid-grade board. Sometimes on the other side there'll be a few chips as well. So that could be mid-grade. This is another category. Modems, switches, routers, they all go in the same pile. That's what these are out of. Usually you'll see ports like that. Now again, the finger boards, doesn't matter the color. They could be blue, they could be red, they could be green, they could be black. Those all go together in the fingerboard category. Now sometimes you'll run across a board where you'll see some visible gold, but then you'll have these big capacitors on there. When you clean off the capacitors, this becomes a higher grade board. Metal will have to come off. A lot of times there's screws that hold that on. You can disassemble it, taking the screws out. Pull off any metal that you can. This shouldn't be on there. So once that's cleaned up a little bit, that could be a high grade board. This board here, you can see it's a motherboard. Battery's been pulled. It has a large socket for a processor. It's a larger socket than, say, a Pentium 4 motherboard. See the difference? This is a high grade motherboard. It's going to be Pentium 1, 2, or 3. You can see there's a nice Motorola chip on there. This goes in its own category. High grade motherboard. So that's Pentium 1, 2, or 3. This is Pentium 4. This will be a low grade motherboard. It's green. That goes in its own category as well. Then you get to your Pentium 4 color boards. They're going to be red, black, brown, blue, probably orange I've seen. There's different colors. Those will go in a Pentium 4 colored motherboard pile. And you'll notice that the socket, now it's very important that you identify what type of board it is. Now Pentium 4, they have a small socket or a large socket like this. Now don't get confused with the larger socket. This is going to be a large socket on a green board that is an older board that's a high grade board. Very important to learn to identify those different boards. If you do want to clean your boards and make them high grade, all these capacitors will have to come off of there.